Hello everyone and welcome to the start of my new series, Let's Make Some Games. We're switching the gears, we're going from playing games to making games. And the reason I thought of this is because I don't have much free time right now with the jobs I'm working. So I want to still make some videos, but I can't write scripts, do heavy editing and stuff like that. Like I wanted to do after I finished the Super Nintendo tribute. So instead, I'm going to be basically just showing off the work I've been doing, what I've been working on, following tutorials, and you're basically going to see my creative process. And we'll continue some more, and we'll do some Q&As in the future, and also maybe a stream here and there. And the whole point is basically, you see on YouTube, a lot of people like to be the teacher. And I want this to be like a series where I'm the learner, and as I go along, maybe people will comment and give me suggestions like, hey, that's a nice idea, but why don't you try this? Or, you seem to be taking the long road, why not do this as sort of like a shortcut? So I got RPG Maker MV open up right here. Castlevania Order of the Moon is what I've been working on, mostly because Castlevania Netflix Season 2 is starting in about a week, so I'm pumped and also inspired by Castlevania, so I got that Castlevania mood. But also, I've been playing around with Game Maker Studio 2. I might even look into Unity. Like, my passion when I was a kid was just to make games, mostly for fun and for my own amusement. And as my adult passion became voiceover, I feel like that childhood passion still shouldn't go to waste. And as you saw with Fantasy Forever Revisions, it's something that I really enjoy doing. And as a kid, I'd just write these on paper and write out the stories and like the boss battles and how it would all play out. And my goal is, throughout the rest of my life is to gradually just make them all into actual games. So without further ado, let's get started on Castlevania Order of the Moon. This is a series where I don't think I'm going to show like every individual step unless you guys really want me to. But instead, I'm just going to show off what I've been working on, what my ideas are, and like do bit by bit. Like maybe I'll do an episode with just RPG Maker, and the next episode I'll do Photoshop or something in between. Play around with audio, visual, story, all kinds, and we'll branch this out. This is kind of like a under construction project, and just give me some feedback, and we'll make something fun out of this. So, I think the best way to start, like what I like to do, especially when I like haven't played tested or looked at this game for about a week or two, is I like to do a quick play test and take notes of like what could be tweaked. And like that's another thing, like as I post these videos, maybe people will be like, "Oh, hey, what if you tried this instead?" So we go here, we got title screen. We got the opening cinematic of the horses going along. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know. Maybe instead of like the old scrolling text like I did in Fantasy Forever Revisions, maybe I'll make individual cutscenes. Now, what I did learn was something called bare bones mapping, which basically you like do the skeleton of each map and you don't really fill it up with all the treasure chests and events and stuff. You just make the map as basic as possible. Then once you make all the maps, go back in and gradually put in those events, and it makes creation go a lot quicker. Like it doesn't seem it at first because you're just making these bare bones rooms that you just like cruise through and all of a sudden you're near the end of the game. But that's kind of the point. It's not like writing a book. It's a whole different process to where you kind of have to do everything from its basics, put in all your assets and all your ideas, and then you flush them out the more you play with them, and the more you show them off, and the more you just go around. Alright, so let's get started. We're going to start with Jacob Morris's, and he looks a lot more like one of the Morris family. He doesn't have that black hair anymore, which I think was a good change. And pardon my stuttering. That just seems to happen. Alright. Whipping candles, gotta keep that. And after playing Octopath Traveler, I don't know if I'm gonna have like voiceover for like every single NPC or character like I did in Fantasy Forever Revisions, because that made the file like too big to be shared. Alright. I'm gonna have to make a cellar sometime. And I have the page turning effect, which I got from Castlevania 64. And these are very expensive, but like they give you a lot of health. And this actually has a state of confusion where in one in every, I think a 30% chance you'll get confused, which in the game is considered drunk. So be careful. That's Castlevania Simon's Quest music playing in the background. It's a little big to be a cat. I think I'm just going to put like the remains of a pet. And you can't run because you got to have that old Belmont stroll. And you'll be revisiting the town later on. And that's why the weaponsmith said what he had to say. You can buy a couple items if you like, though you don't start with it. You start with a little bit of gold because if you whip some candles, you'll get some. But I don't have enough. Okay, the merchant, he's going to sell you some accessories that you can equip to get like elemental-based weapons. Let's see what's in here. There we go, an angel bottle. So originally I had it to where you could choose which prologue you want to start with, as they all kind of like interconnect. But as I'm going on, I think it's better to make a cohesive narrative of like just you start with a character's prologue, it leads into the next one, and then once all three are complete, it kind of like starts out. Because unlike Octopath, it doesn't... It's not that big a deal, but at the same time, like there is a focus on like the three characters and their distinct differences. They're not just travelers, they have a purpose. So doing them in a jumbled mess won't necessarily grab you, as well as like if you just do Jacob's story, then Heather, then Samuel's. And there's a nice little Easter egg I got right here that I thought of. The Konami jingle, everybody. Alright, go down here, and I think you'll trigger the first side quest. Alright, so there are some children that you have to... Much like the songs for Feline, now there's children you gotta find. And I haven't decided if like it will play into... If the side quest will play into like a bad ending and a good ending, but I'm definitely considering it. It's where there'll be like a regular finale and then like a true finale with like an extra dungeon and an extra final boss. So let me know what you think about that. Alright. So there's nowhere else we can go. But if we talk to this guy at the pub... Okay. Alright, so now we have to head into the tunnels. You don't do. Excuse me. And right here you can access some of the debug stuff, but I won't show that off just yet, maybe for another episode. Alright. Whip some candles. Whoop, here we go. Combat time. Enemies here, for the most part, like, die in one hit. Bloodstones, I don't know if I'm going to keep them or not. They're originally just going to be like gems that sell for like a high price. Maybe I'll change the drop. Like, I'll write that down. Change drop of bloodstones. There we go. The nice thing about making these videos is I don't really have to stop and write down these notes. I can just refer back to the videos and be like, okay, this is what I said. Or this is what I want done. And like, I'll have a visual. So like, I think this is a good idea in the long run. It'll start out rocky, but I think when I get to some streams and like actual interaction, it'll help my creative process. There we go. Up and around here. Don't worry, the whole game isn't this easy. Some Castlevania difficulty rears its ugly head after the prologues. I just want the prologues to be relatively simple, to kind of like grasp the basics and capture that Castlevania feel. Which is my ultimate goal, to make it feel like a love letter to the Castlevania series. But make it seem fan game enough to where it doesn't actually grasp the copyright holder's eyes. I feel that's important. You have to make something fan gamey enough to where it doesn't look like a professional did it. That way the creators don't get jealous. Like, I think it's important for a fan game at the end of the day to be a fan game. And I will be adding a couple more chests in these tunnels, most likely. Oh, yeah, bloodstones drop way too often, so I'll definitely adjust that. And Alright, now in here are two ideas that I'm currently working on. One is called a monster respawn circle. That's where, because I have monsters on the field, what I'm trying to create is a feature where you can come back here and respawn all those monsters if you want to grind, and like if you want to level up and stuff, if like the bosses are kicking your ass too much. There we go. But it doesn't quite work because they like get stuck in loop, so I'd have to like look at the features for that. And this one is where you can purchase new skill points. So right now we have 18 skill points, so we can learn prayer. There we go. And we have that learned, and we have these that we can learn in the long run. Your very standard Castlevania sub-weapons. And there will be more along the way. Alright, so I'm going to save this game for now. And I think this is enough for an introductory episode. Leave your comments, tell me what you think, if you like this idea. And I'll be sure to make some more. And as always, go right up here. Yibbity-doo. Alright guys, see you next time.